thank you, Jeanette. Happy to be here. Happy that so many people are interested in what's going on in the public sector. Tonight we want to talk about transforming the government through co-design. I'm Charlotte, and I work for DigitalService, but I think that's not really where we want to go too much in detail about tonight, but really look into public services from the public sector. So, who in this room has lately used a great public service that they really liked? Okay, a German one?
I use the navigator.
But this is Deutsche Bahn, not really public.
Who in the room has had a bit disappointing experiences with digital services in the last 4 weeks?
Yeah. Well,
Okay. So I guess some of you might ask themselves the question, how can it still be so hard in 2024 to build good public services? Like, it's a solved problem. We have methodology, we have service design, everything's out there. So why don't you do it? Okay. And that's also what I saw when I started at the digital service. I thought, we know how to do it. We're very talented team of people. Let's go and fix this. Yeah, it's actually not that easy. So really, if you, like now after almost 4 years, I understand that there are so many challenges that make it almost impossible to just go out there and build a great public service. And we could talk about the details of this list, like procurement processes that are broken, federalism that makes it really difficult. No one thinks in products, but everyone thinks in projects, etc. The list is really long, and I don't want to go into detail. I just really want to make it clear that it's not only about building one specific thing really well and taking the right design decisions and then having a great result. The problem is the whole environment. The whole structure is, I would say, broken, but it makes it really hard to practice fast practices. So for us as designers, that means we are not just here to redesign something in a really nice way. We are also here to transform the services and the environments in order to change and transform the whole ecosystem in a way that one day we will be able to really build services in the way we want and we need, and we also really are dependent of to create best results. So, but there are so many things. I mean, it's a structural problem, and this is a mass of responsibilities for digitization in Germany. And you see, it's super complex. A lot of responsibilities are on state level, some are on federal level, some are on communal level. So in the end, that means if you start, for example, a project with a ministry and then suddenly, there are some aspects that also touches federal stake levels, and suddenly you have like 18 stakeholders that are all allowed or entitled to participate in decision making. And of course, that makes it quite slow. And these are structured things that make our work really hard. But it's not only the structural level that is, somehow a blocker or a barrier to smooth sailing and practicing what you might know from private sector. It's also really on the working level. If you have project partners, let's say, that work in administration, in offices, in citizen offices, in ministries, or in nachgelagerten Behörden. These are really different cultures. Like it's super paper-based. There are mainly lawyers working there. So there are no tech people, there are no designers usually. So this whole skill set, way of thinking, they also have totally different values. Like they optimize for process safetiness, and they wouldn't take any risks. And we optimize for very different things in our way of working. So this is also, something we definitely need to change if we want to get to a common working condition where we can proceed as we'd like to. And while we as designers won't probably change the big structural level unless we start to do policy design. But let's say if we really work in delivery teams, then one way for us to contribute to this transformation is co-design. So that means we have the opportunity to let other people come into our design process, integrate them, and by opening up our process, really sharing our way of working, our mindsets, enabling these people that might join us on this journey to know more and understand deeper how good service design actually works, how you build products, how you can do delivery. And these are things it's just a starting point, but this is super important to spark ideas and to really change mindsets. And we have even project partners here tonight. And I'm very curious what you'll say about the results in the panel discussion. But yeah, I think this is our contribution to have a deeper effect. And what can this co-design be for us? Of course, it's designing for users, but we don't want to design for users in a kind of expert role where you would be outside and say, okay, this is the user. I can see you have this problem. I'll fix it like this. But no, actually, it's clear we want, as everyone, I think it's common sense, user-centered design process encourages us to design with users. Of course, we have many regular touch points. We have various ways of collecting feedback so that you really design with your users. But co-design in its most radical interpretation would even go that far to say, I don't design for the users, and also not with the users. It's the users that design. So the idea is to really have a kind of power shift and also shifting the decision making really towards those people that are affected, that are also, should maybe have the agency to decide how they want to have services to work and to be designed. I have to add a little asterisk because in the rest of the talk, when I talk about our co-design process, we do not only involve users. We also sometimes involve stakeholders or service providers, other service providers, just depending on where we think, okay, this is maybe the group of participants or a meaningful group that we should integrate and up level in order to see change. But still, it's in general the users that we want to integrate. And you see it's a gradient action. And obviously, the left edge is when you really have the expert, the design expert taking the decision, and you try to shift the decision making to the right side so that you really enable users to be autonomous, to have agency of the things that they need and their access to the services. Yeah, and while this is beautiful theory, to be honest, we're usually more in the middle part, so where we collaborate and try to enable. I think we never had a project where really users would be then autonomous and take the decision alone. But we really try to empower them because, for example, we often build software also for or services for people that work with our tools, so professional context. And for them to really understand that these tools are part of their profession is super important. Like that changes so much in their attitude to software and services once they understand, okay, they need to own it because that's what they actually bring to the table and it's part of their job. So that's what we want to achieve. Obviously, in practice, it's not always that easy. And I think we're doing this now for 4 years, on about, plus 1 year of fellowship. And we practice this a lot with various constellations. And we had great moments, we had pain moments, and I think we've learned a lot. So here are our 5 ingredients to success, the 5 biggest learnings from these years. So first of all, if you really want to plan this process, one important thing is to understand where is this partner that you want to integrate. Because the equation is super easy. The higher the maturity, the easier it will be to make decisions together. And okay, maturity is maybe a bit from top. So it's obviously only maturity in regards of knowledge concerning design and delivery processes. Nothing else is included in there. But yeah, it's important to honestly think about like where do they stand, what do they know, how open are they, in order to have a good idea how far can I get and how much effort will it be. So for example, if you want to collaborate with users, you might ask yourself, had they been involved in any kind of design process, reviewing process? Had they been testing software before? Are they open? Do they understand also how to give feedback and how to onboard you into their domain? So sometimes, for example, do they overwhelm you with tons of information, or do they maybe also try to onboard you and collaborate step by step? Or do they understand how important technology is for them to reach actually their goal? So the more they have on that list, the higher it's probably the maturity and the less effort it would probably be to get into this coming shared collaboration. And once you understood where you are, where you want to go, it's important to really manage time and expectations. So first of all, inside within your project and team, what is realistic, what can you achieve, and how difficult will it be? Because I also often hear from teams, if we would do that alone, we would be so much faster. So yes, it will slow you down in time and in speed, but that's for reasons because we don't want to just build a service fast, then we also want to change more. So that's okay. Just be aware it will cost you time. And also for the other side, I think it's super important to clearly state at the beginning what is going to be the role and how much time will they need to contribute to really fill out that goal. And once you have the setup done, then you can start doing. And start to do is obviously finding formats, sessions, how you will collaborate. Here you see some picture of one design sprint that we run with a documentation office from a federal court in Kassel. And these people, it's actually a department of 35 people. We're building some tools for them, so working context. And yeah, and 35 people. And we asked them, yeah, would maybe someone of you be open to participate in a design sprint? And we plan to do 5 days, but it's fine if you just join us for some decision-making points or reviews. And they were like, oh yeah, we'll join with 5 people and we'll be there all the time. I was like, okay. But that was really cool. And we had thought they are rather low in maturity because they are all lawyers and they have a completely different background. But they were super open and they were sketching out, they were using Miro and all these things that administrations usually quite reluctant to do and to use. They were really on fire and they did great. And I think in the end, they had a very nice prototype that led us already in the right direction. But that's just one idea for a format. Obviously, there are formats that are more suitable, that might get small to read. That the idea of this is to show that you have some formats that are probably more feasible for very mature stakeholders and partners, and you have some that are maybe easier to with a low barrier of entrance. And yeah, depending on where you are in your design process, you might pick and try out some of these formats. Yeah, and of course, this is something you can always also iterate. So you start maybe down there, for example, I don't know, if someone has never ever been in a software or service design project, you might maybe just start with regularly sharing your user research results. So just to make clear and share openly, like we collect these things and later in the process, we will use that to make decisions, but you've heard of it, and that's where it starts. And then in the end, you might even get to the point where you prioritize your backlog together with your user group. Then you know, okay, we've come a long way if this is a smooth process. Yeah, but even though you have the best planning, the best intentions, there will be conflict. And I think, the best thing is just to expect this, like everyone, or usually you come from very different worlds, have very different experiences. So this will just happen. And I think the best way is to see it coming and then be patient. This is something that is normal. And the frustration is just something that happens because sometimes it doesn't go as fast as expected. It's more difficult. And you can still mitigate this by installing a few strategies. Like, for example, we try to retrospect really often, also then in the safe space of the internal team. Make sure you have rooms where, or the freedom for your team to let the emotions out, to vent maybe after a difficult stakeholder meeting, and then you can start on a fresh slate the next day. And maybe also always remind yourself that transformation is work, and it's somehow a bit invisible, and it's also hard to predict. Like if someone asks me how long will a feature take, I'm like 6 months, 3 months, pretty easy. But if someone asks me, what do you think, when will that user group maybe go out of a meeting with a smile, I'm like, have no idea. Maybe it's 1 month, maybe 12, maybe never. Like this is really, at least if you're not super trained in that, quite difficult to get a feeling how the steps are and how good it would work. Yeah, but for us, it has become quite a important part of our role as a designer also. So it's at least time to think about it and make sure that you have some strategies in place how to deal with that. And in the end, even though sometimes it's difficult and draining maybe, but we also do that because we believe it's important. And if you go into that process with an attitude of really, really deep openness, that will definitely change the air in the room and be at least a good base for a successful collaboration. So for us, we also try to create some openness and include really different people by also reflecting ourselves and trying to understand like what might make other people not feel so included. What is my bias? What are my privileges? What kind of values can we also bring to the table and into this process? Like as we work for state, I think our North Star is quite often something very simple like fostering equity, fostering inclusion, fostering participation, and these values are actually also quite common in the administration. So it's easy to relate to that. And then it's also a good base or frame for this kind of collaborative process. And that's actually what also motivates us and guides us through this work. And that's it about the 5 ingredients, how to approach co-design. Thank you.